On April 15th, 2019, Notre-Dame Cathedral was engulfed by fire. The world watched as its spire, structure, and its roof disappeared. It was a disaster, but it could have been much worse. The entire cathedral could have collapsed. And yet the walls stayed intact. Notre-Dame still stands. Le Monde has revisited that day to understand how the cathedral was saved, from the moment that the flames ignited to when the fire was put out. Using an exclusive 3D visualization, we can reveal that Notre-Dame was just minutes away from complete destruction, but was saved by one single decision. Monday, April 15th, 2019, Notre-Dame's spire is undergoing renovations. At 6:18 p.m, just as Mass begins, the smoke detectors go off. It takes nearly 30 minutes for security to locate the fire. By the time they find it at the top of the stairs leading to the attic, it's too late. The fire is already out of control. The Paris Fire Department is alerted at 6:51 p.m, and the cathedral is evacuated. The fire brigade arrives 7 minutes later, and they have to act fast. The attic is entirely made of wood. Thousands of oak beams, which are 800 years old. The firefighters can't hose down the flames from the outside. The lead roof prevents water from passing through. So they have to fight the fire from the inside of Notre-Dame, which means watering the flames directly from the attic. This poses several problems. The streets around the cathedral are narrow. Fire engines can only access the adjacent street, the parvis, and the entrance to the presbytery. There, they can connect to the city's water network to pump pressurized water through their hoses. But there are few water points near the cathedral, and the pipes date from the early 20th century, so they have a weak flow. Next, the fire trucks are connected to the dry standpipe, tubes that send the water directly to the upper floors. But the cathedral only has 3 of them, and one of them has a leak. To access the attic, there are only 4 spiral staircases. They're very narrow and have no opening, making it difficult to transport fire hoses and protective equipment. Because of this, firefighters can't get enough water to the roof structure to bring the fire under control, which is quickly gaining momentum. The roof tiles begin to melt. The fire is now accessible from the outside of the cathedral. It's 7:30 p.m. The Paris Fire Brigade squads reposition themselves between the 2 towers and on the chemin de garde. The roof has all but disappeared, and the attic's wooden beams continue feeding the blaze. Then, the spire falls. Its fall creates a large hole in the vaulted stone ceiling. This weakens Notre-Dame's entire structure, which could now collapse at any moment. The firefighters have to evacuate the cathedral. Inside, they're replaced by a robot that aims water at the flames. It also hoses down the vault ceiling to cool it down. Outside, the first aerial ladder is set up on the opposite street at 8 p.m. The second one is then positioned on the side of the parvis, close to the Seine. But their platform can only reach 32 meters, which is lower than Notre-Dame's roof. A fireboat increases the amount of water available by drawing from the Seine. But it's not enough to supply the nearest aerial ladder's hose. At 8:10 p.m, a high-powered fireboat arrives. It's positioned here to power the aerial ladder's hose used on the south side of the cathedral. 8:41 p.m, the sun sets. At 9 p.m, a bigger aerial ladder, 45 meters high, finally arrives as backup. It's positioned on the adjacent street. The fire seems to slow down, but around 9:05 p.m, smoke billows from the north tower. The flooring has caught fire. The firefighters have to make a decision that changes everything. The North Tower houses a huge wooden structure that supports 8 bells. If it burns, 16 tons of metal could fall through the floors. The other tower, which has 2 enormous bells, has the same risk. If they go down, the belfries fall. If the towers fall, the facade falls, taking the rest of the building with it. Notre-Dame could collapse. And there's another problem. On the openings of the towers, large wooden shutters prevent the fire hoses from reaching the flames inside. It's at this moment the firefighters make a decisive decision. They give up trying to save what's left of the attic's frame to focus on the belfries. It's 9:30 p.m. Firefighters form a squadron and head for the spiral staircase in the southern tower. Part of the equipment is brought to them via an aerial ladder, which is positioned opposite the tower. Two groups position themselves on the walkway and roll out two pipes to divert the water away from the leaky dry standpipe. They start watering the roof from the walkway. The plan is to contain the heat on the side of the nave and push the fire away from the towers. And it works. Within 15 minutes, the flames subside and the fire is repelled away from the facade. But the north tower still has to be saved. More firefighters climb into the wooden structure, which is already disintegrating from the 10-meter-high flames. Despite the smoke and the burning floor, the firefighters bring the blaze under control in less than an hour. At 10:45 p.m., the good news is announced. The belfries are saved. Notre-Dame will stand. But it's not over yet. The fire on the roof still has to be put out. It's a fierce battle that lasts all night. Finally, at 2:01 a.m., the fire is out, but part of the vault fell around the gap made by the spire. Notre-Dame lost its roof, spire, and some of its furnishings, but its tower, facade, and structure stayed intact. The worst was just about avoided. On December 7th, 2024, the cathedral will reopen its doors after a massive 5-year restoration project, with one new addition. Notre-Dame now has an updated fire protection system on its roof.